Whatever your views are on GCOM is constituted of 7 commissioners who speak on behalf of the commission, which is vested with the statutory authority to manage elections in this country. Sadly, we have a long history of the poor management of elections in this country, and I'm unaware of a single election that has not been challenged by some political party or the other. After 60 years of independence, and after 1992, we should at least by now have worked out a system which will deliver fair, credible results acceptable to all political parties, not acceptable to one or the other. And if we as a country cannot arrive at a position where our institutions can deliver results which are broadly accepted, we are in a difficult place. Because if we cannot even manage the process by which we identify those who will govern us for the next cycle, then it means that we are always going to be in a state of perpetual crisis. And worse than that, if we continue to have results that are not accepted across the board, we will create, unfortunately, the incentives for substantial parts of this country to disrupt the good governance of the country over the cycle of elections. They will have no trust, no confidence, and therefore their conduct may well be incentivized towards other acts of disruption. I just merely wish to go back to when the good leader of the opposition in the 1970s, Dr. Chetty Jagan, was alive. You had several incidents of burning of sugar. You had several incidents of sabotage. And at the time, the government of the day said that this was based on an attempt to derail the economy. So whenever you choose to pick your era, you cannot have parts of this country that don't accept the results. Now, the commissioners, 3 out of 7, 3 commissioners complained about the hiring process that GCOM was undertaking. And I dare say, again, my good friend Beverly this afternoon played a clip in the words of the current General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, specifically saying that he had a difficulty with the hiring process of GCOM under the chairmanship of Dr. Serge Valley. So this just demonstrates that whether you are in government, out of government, GCOM has had a perpetual problem and has never at any stage had the confidence of the population in relation to their operations. It is the same General Secretary who, in that clip that you heard, spoke about fair systems, spoke about enhanced biometrics. Now, I would have thought, as we now have the wealth that we have, and we are aspiring to become a modern democratic society, that the least we could do is, since the General Secretary said so 15 years ago, or however long it was, and we are saying so now, we want enhanced biometrics, we want a new list, we want fair systems of hiring, then let us get together and identify the process, since all of us have made this allegation at some stage, that will give us enhanced biometrics, a fair system, and will give us a voting list which is acceptable to all parties. The alternative is very clear. If we go into an election in which there are grave doubts about the list, grave doubts about the verification of the voters, we are laying the foundation, for difficulties after the election. And I say to our international friends, the Americans, the British, the Canadians, the Europeans, the Caribbean states, and everybody else, that you issue a report after the 2020 disaster in which you said there should be a new list. We are saying here that whether you listen to us today or whether you listen to the current General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party on the recording, we need a credible election. You know from your experience in other parts of this world that where there are difficulties with lists, that you are beginning, you haven't begun, you're building the foundations, if you haven't constructed them already, for difficulties. And one of the additions that we would like to offer, that perhaps there need to be cameras not in the voting booth, but in the polling station. So that when somebody says 100 people turned up and the camera shows that only 25 people turned up, then we have some credible independent evidence that says how many people turned up. So if the people coming into the polling station as recorded on those cameras is less than the number of people who have voted in the polling station, then we begin to have a crisis long before we count the votes. And since all of us are committed to finding an election that is properly run and consistent with international standards, then let's add to the list to make sure that it is even more credible. Let us make sure we have cameras out there so we can see how many people come in. So that when people declare that you got 100 people voting and the cameras only show that 25 people enter the polling station, that we have difficulties, and we can address that, because I'm not sure that many people would defend that. And I thank you. I might have gone on a little long, but I thank you for the indulgence.